Okay. We were having fun too there. Yeah.
Yeah, too much fun.
Yeah.
Too much fun.
All right.
It's Friday, Larry. Come on.
Oh no, Monty. When I run the meetings, they run on time.
Yeah.
I learned that from Jack. They
Yeah.
start on time and they end on time.
You may start.
Oh, we got Dr. Bragman too.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
You put a tie on for us.
Been in back? No, he went to court this morning. You been in
Yeah.
back or you're got to go yet?
No, I got out quickly. I had a
Wow.
good judge. Judge Chernus was very nice to me
I
Good,
thought you
good.
dressed for us.
today. No, this
No.
Yeah.
distinguishes me from my clients. So
He's way too smart for that, Jack, to dress for us.
We could start now. It's already
Okay,
recording.
then we started. Okay, this is the District Operations Committee for January 15th, and we're ready to go. I need a motion to approve the agenda, adopt the agenda.
Move
So
approval
moved.
of the agenda.
second,
Director Bragman.
Roll call.
aye.
Director Gibson,
Aye.
Director Schmidt,
Aye.
and Chair Russell.
Aye. Okay, public comment on any subject not on the agenda?
We do not have any public comments at this time.
Perfect.
But earlier today, we did receive 3 public comments, and I forwarded it to the board, and it will be posted on the website.
Okay, great. All righty. Item 2, purchase of 14 portable emergency generators.
What about
What about the
approval of
minutes?
What?
Move approval.
Oh,
of-
minutes. Yeah, I thought you're right. I need a motion to approve the minutes.
I just did.
Okay.
Second. I'll second
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Director Bragman,
Aye.
Director Gibson,
Aye.
Director Schmidt,
Aye.
and Chair Russell.
Aye.
Thank you.
See, I'm just out of practice, Jack. I'm in a hurry here.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll go to item 2, purchase of 14 emergency generators.
Okay, good morning, Board of Directors. Lucy Troy. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Can you see the presentation and hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Good morning. I am pleased to be here presenting the recommendation for a purchase of 14 portable generators for the district to move forward on. As you all are very familiar with at this point, PG&E initiated the Public Safety Power Shutoff program in 2019. And this program primarily focuses on de-energizing PG&E's power lines in areas of high risk when there's forecasted weather conditions that are dry and windy. And shown in the orange are those areas of high risk. And much of that covers our service area and our facilities, including our pump stations, which are critical for conveying water to our customers and keeping our storage tanks full. In preparation for the PSPS events in 2020, the district rented 29 portable generators, and that was in addition to the generator that was the 2 megawatt generator that was rented for San Geronimo treatment plant. Renting portable generators over the last 2 wildfire seasons has ensured that the district is able to provide water to our customers during these power outages, and has also allowed for some flexible operations during these periods. To prepare for the PSPS events, the operations staff identified pump stations that had longer run times and deployed a number of the portable generators to those critical pump stations ahead of time and left those portable generators there for the duration of the power outage. And then pump stations with lower operating times were grouped together by location and runtime, and the operations developed generator shuttle run run routes shown over here on the right. So this is one that was in San Rafael, going between Hind Pump Station, Chula Vista Pump Station, Oak Woodlands, and Cibrian pump station. And this really allows for some flexibility to make sure that our storage tanks stayed full, that were fed off the pump stations throughout the power outage. So while logistically challenging at times, the portable generators have allowed the district to operate pretty flexibly during these power outages. The portable generators that we're recommending for purchase match the rental generators that we've rented the last 2 years through Sunbelt. Each is towable by district staff and have remote starters. And the portable generators are all diesel fuel that meet the EPA standard for Tier 4 final emissions, which is the most stringent. Each of these portable generators are using diesel fuel primarily because they can be easily refueled by district staff. We have 5 pickup trucks that are outfitted with fuel tanks where our staff can go out to these challenging locations and refuel the generators throughout the power outage or as needed. And then also some of the lessons learned from the Santa Rosa wildfire was that the natural gas lines were shut down to the pump stations when the fire hit in the WUI areas. One of the biggest advantages of ownership with these portable generators is that we will have the capability to respond to emergencies year-round. Any kind of earthquake or wildfire or storm event that could cause a power outage year-round, we would have the capability to respond, having these portable generators available to us on site and be able to take them out very quickly to our pump stations. Right now, we've been running the generators for about 6 months and then returning them. So we would have those fully available to us to respond. Another big advantage of purchasing is that it seems to be very cost effective over the equipment lifespan. Doing a quick calculation based on the rental prices that we've seen over the last 2 years, the break even for purchasing these is about 3 years. We're planning on purchasing right now about 8 of the 56 kilowatts, 4 of the 100 kilowatt, and 2 of the 200 kilowatt generators. And we see this as a cost-effective move for the district. Our goal is really to develop system reliability and resiliency by moving towards the right blend of generators. So that includes putting in permanent generators at critical pump stations and facilities, which includes San Geronimo treatment plants, and including it as a design element moving forward. When we do big pump station rehabilitations and replacements, and then moving forward with the district-owned portable generators, having our own fleet so that we can respond very quickly and have that flexibility in emergency response. And then also supplementing with rental portable generators as needed, really evaluating if there will be system-wide power outages, if those continue, and adding rental portable generators as needed, and seeing this as a solution kind of 3 ways. So our next steps are to purchase the 14 portable generators through a government bid agency contract, and then continue to monitor really PG&E's progress to minimize outages and avoid these system-wide outages, and evaluate the need next 2021 wildfire season to rent more generators. So with that, I will take any questions.
I have a couple of questions, Lucy. A couple of years ago, when we got into this, I recommended that we look into purchasing a fuel truck. The pickups may be fine for spot running, but if you start cranking these things 24 hours a day, they burn a lot of fuel. So I think that's still something you guys should kick around. You answered my questions, which my next question was about who's going to bid on it if you're looking for one piece of equipment. But more importantly, have you given any thought to approaching Sunbelt to just buy out the ones we have, the used ones?
We've considered it. We first approached Multiquip and found that these prices were much better than we were expecting. And I think with the warranty that we can get through Multi-Quip, as well as kind of having a fleet of our own that's across the board, we thought that it would be good to go through Multi-Quip, but it can still be evaluated.
Well, I think it's worth talking to Sunbelt, because if the generators have performed adequately, which I understand they have, they're the same units. Yes, they're painted green instead of white and orange, but you know, I have purchased a lot of equipment from rental companies, and I find them to be pretty flexible, very
Mhm.
frankly, on price. You know, I don't know. Do we have any 200s right now rented,
we
or we're all 56s?
we own one or two 200s. I don't
Okay.
think we rented any.
Well, Lucy,
Yeah,
we
so-
may have, we've already returned the ones, I believe, but I may be wrong, from this last season. So we aren't sitting on
did.
rentals that we could purchase at this point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Well, yeah, but Ben, the rent, those are still sitting at the yard. Okay.
Right,
My experience has been everything is for sale. Okay.
right. No, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were thinking, got it.
You know, I'm not telling you they're going to give you the rock bottom price, but you know, I find they run my experience, which is fairly extensive in purchasing this kind of equipment, is they run a pretty comprehensive evaluation of the depreciated value. They know what they're worth to them, you know, in terms of replacement cost and all that. And I mean, you know, it's 430 grand. I wouldn't be surprised, just for the 856s, I wouldn't be surprised you could get that down to like 250 or 300. You know, maybe they'll gouge. I don't know. But if they know that Multi-Quip is on the backside of the deal, you know, eager to sell the new ones, they got the picture. They'd better have the new ones than the old ones. So, you know, from a rental standpoint, the other thing to think about is, you know, we're keeping all the ones we currently have, which obviously have hours on them, huh? And so, you know, I don't think in a standby generator that 0 hours is that useful, because they don't run that much. So, you know, it's not like buying a new truck or a new car where you're going to put a lot of miles on it. It's
Yeah.
basically most of its time is going to be sleeping in the yard. And but anyway, it's something to think about.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I spoke. We have 7 existing portable generators that are about 20 years old. So some of these may replace some of those. And then I've also spoken with a contact down in Santa Clara Water District, and the way they operate their rentals is they rent them and they run them into the ground. And so I think it's something to consider. They have their own that they own, and then they have their own that they rent, and they use their rentals to run into the ground, is how he told me.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Although most of these, I don't know what our rental agreement is, but my experience with generators is they give you an allotment of so many hours a month or a day or a year. And if you exceed that, you pay them the depreciation on it. It isn't free to grind their machines into the ground, from my experience. There's almost every rental contract I've ever seen has for X hours a day or a month. And when you exceed that, then they may think they're getting a deal, but I don't know that they really are. It would probably still be cheaper to buy them and wear them out than it is to rent them and pay the depreciation to the rental company. But if you do me a favor, just check with them and see, you know, just so we have a base. And then, you know, after that, if you think it's not worth it, that's cool with me. I don't care. I just think it's worth talking to them.
I have a question, and I think you probably said this in the presentation, Lucy, but could you give me once we have these, we buy these 14 portable, what do we have total capacity in terms of numbers of pieces of equipment? I know we have some stationary generators, at least one, and then we'll have a combination, it sounds like, of a few rentals and a few, and then these that we buy. What's the numbers wise? What's our total pieces of equipment?
It's a good question. So we would have these 14. We would have 3 permanent ones that are already installed. We have one at Bon Tempe Treatment Plant. We have one at Ignacio, and we have one at another pump station in Tiburon. And then we have the one that's going in at San Geronimo treatment plant. And then we have 7 other portables as well. So we would have a total of 21 portables plus ultimately 4 permanents once San Geronimo treatment plant goes in.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
One of the resistances, Lucy, to buying these machines in the past has been the changing of the tier 4 requirements or going up. Have you guys evaluated that to see what the likely longevity is? I mean, these guys have all got the filters on the exhaust and all that kind of stuff, catalytic converters and all that junk. So maybe that's as far as they're going to go, or do you know?
From what I've read and from what I've talked to a lot of generator and air quality at this point is the portables are actually held to the highest standard.
Yes.
So I think the tier 4 will hold for a long time, and anything we if they needed to move up, we could put any kind of diesel particulate on it. So
I think all these have diesel particulate. Anything over 50 kilowatts, my understanding, has diesel particulate removal.
True.
Has the filters. What about air permits?
So as a portable, we will be registering it with the state and working through Bay Area Air Quality Management District.
Because that's one advantage of the rentals, of course, is they come with the permits.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, Larry?
I just had a sort of a related question, which is during PSPS, does our IT system stay up so that we are monitoring the pump stations, or are we just relying on, visual inspection?
Yeah, Director Bragman, this is Paul. Yeah, we do have a generator for our SCADA system, and you'll recall as some of our PSPS preparations, we installed solar panels and batteries at a number of locations. So we have our tank levels, our pumps obviously are powered by generators, and then our control valves have battery banks. And we have a fleet of personnel that's assigned to go around on a periodic basis during PSPS and change out batteries.
Okay.
But we have full SCADA capability.
Okay, that sounds good. So it's somewhat resilient. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Sure.
Thanks, Larry. Monty, any questions?
Yeah, I want to just follow up on something, Larry, that you asked about, which is the sufficient capacity to fuel these generators if we are in a sustained event for a number of days where we are needing to run around and be fueling up all of our generators. Do we have that capacity to be able to keep them running?
So these typically have about 24-hour capacity fuel tanks. And depending on the power outage, we would hopefully have enough staff ready to go to fuel these up. We have a 15,000-gallon diesel storage tank in Corte Madera, and we would be able to shuttle from there.
In preparation, I was just going to note that in preparation for the PSPS, staff developed a pretty detailed logistical routing. So I would say the short answer to that is yes. The caveats, of course, is being able to continue to supply our main diesel tank in the yard, but diesel's fairly readily available. It would probably take a massive earthquake for that to be threatened of being able to get diesel deliveries both there and up at San Geronimo, where we can refuel that, but that one uses so much diesel. We get loads directly up there.
Okay. I mean, I think that I think you folks understand just sort of the making sure that we don't have a bottleneck if we lose power for 5 days due to a PSPS or an earthquake. That we have the at least the capacity to move fuel around. Whether we can get it, post earthquake or something like that is a different problem that we can't probably solve.
Actually, we can solve it, Monty. They have a good relationship with their supplier, and there's a couple of guys like Diablo Petroleum and that had no problem serving fuel in 1989 in Loma Prieta. You know, the fuel guys are pretty organized, and they have hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel at their depots. So I've never had a problem with that issue of getting the fuel. Of course, if the bridge went down or something, you know, that would be a different animal.
I remember during our shutdown a couple of years ago, congratulating our staff on the outstanding job they did with keeping the fuel coming in. And as I recall, it took some planning and some creativity to make all that happen. And other agencies were having a problem, but we successfully got through it. So our track record, I would say, is pretty good there.
What we also are sizing when we put in permanent generators. I don't know exactly, Mike, do you know the, for San Geronimo that's going in, we're sizing that fuel tank to be able to run that generator for what time frame? Is it a couple days?
Yeah, I think it's 3 days.
3 days. Yeah.
3 days. So we do have some flexibility with the size storage that we design.
And that's a good point too, Ben. We could also rob fuel from that location if we had problems in different places, not there. You got storage there that could be topped off with a bigger truck.
Right.
That's a good point. And of course, there's always the old adage of, you got the money, honey, I got the time. You're willing to pay, they're willing to come. So, you know, good. That sounds great. I'm very pleased that we've gone this direction. I've been, as you may recall, harping about the purchase versus the rental. I harped about it at the beginning of this PSPS season, and I'm glad to see that we've addressed the issue. And that's good too, as Lucy pointed out, that the prices are stabilized.
Do we want to see if there's public comment?
There aren't any public comments.
Okay, and I think
Thanks,
as a,
Molly.
sure, and Director Russell, I think as a practice, we want to get a first and a second to refer this to a regular board meeting.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, no vote, huh?
No,
Molly, no vote?
no vote because the actual
Sure,
final
sure.
approval would be at a regular board meeting, correct?
Sure. Okay, Dr. Sellier is up.
Good morning, Director Russell. Chris Nanny, our lab manager, will be taking this item.
Good morning, Board of Directors. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I'm Chris Nanny. I am the Water Quality Lab Manager. And today I want to give a little bit of information on a replacement purchase for our ICP-MS. The ICP-MS is an instrument that we have in the laboratory that does trace metal analysis. And we've been doing trace metal analysis here in our laboratory longer than I've been here, at least for 30 years. So this is something that we have been doing in-house for a number of years. And it is time to replace the current ICP-MS that we have. Right now, we're using this machine to analyze for 16 different metals that can occur in our drinking water or our source waters. And of course, we use this to perform the analysis on a lot of different regulatory programs. For instance, let me give you a few examples. Source water monitoring, all of our lakes, we do trace metal analysis. Of course, the lead copper rule, that's another big one. And in fact, 2021, we are due for another round of lead copper. Once again, that's every 3 years. And 2021, we're up again. Of course, we used it extensively when we did the lead in schools testing a couple of years ago. And once again, that's most likely going to be coming around here again. There's, you know, regulations are sort of in process, but I know that we're going to do it again. We use this machine for customer investigations as well. If there's any concerns out there in the distribution system, and sometimes for operational testing, maybe something at the treatment plant, certainly ferric studies and that kind of thing. The current ICP-MS that we have, we got it back in 2007. It has served us very, very well. We've performed over 7,000 analyses on that machine. But it really is, it's due. The manufacturer is no longer going to be supporting it. There's a few parts available, but once again, they're not going to be making replacement parts. After reviewing a few different vendors for this machine, our selection for this purchase would be the Agilent 7850. Once again, it's an ICP-MS. During our evaluation process, Agilent really demonstrated superior sensitivity. I think that this machine will bring us up into the future if there are any regulatory changes, especially with lower detection limits, whether it's lead or arsenic or whatever. So in addition, we checked references on the different vendors, and Agilent has a really good record for support, and that's good to have. It's a very complex piece of equipment, and it's nice to have the support readily available here in the Bay Area. The price for this machine, you probably have seen it, $137,881. And what we would like to do, staff is recommending that this item be referred to a regular bi-monthly board meeting for approval of this purchase. So that's kind of what I have today. I didn't have a fancy presentation, but certainly want to open it up for questions if anybody has any for me today.
Does HP run the Agilent group out of San Jose, or is it out of Texas?
It is out of San Jose, Santa Clara, I believe. And you're right, Larry, Director, they are absolutely different companies now. HP is quite separate from Agilent, but you're exactly right. They initially came from HP and split off, oh boy, what, about 18 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, they've always made very good equipment though.
Yes, I agree.
So Chris, is this mostly for metallic detection, or can it be used for post disinfection byproduct type analysis too, or?
That's a great question. This particular instrument is specific for metals analysis. And once again, we're running about 16 different metals, everything from aluminum to vanadium, and a lot of things in between: chromium, lead, arsenic,
Sure.
all kinds of those kind of things.
Sure.
Yes. It has the capability really to look for other metals too. So if there's anything suspect, it's a great screening tool and analytical tool.
Chris, we do have a system, a GCMS, right, that we use for the organics that includes the disinfection byproduct.
That is correct. That is correct. So that would be a gas chromatograph, also
Okay.
connected to a mass spec, slightly different physics going on in there.
Right.
But yes, we do have that capability. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the sensitivity on the Agilent? Does it go down to parts per billion?
In fact, that's one of the things that we were rather impressed with the Agilent, in that they demonstrated even sub part per billion.
Wow.
I don't want to exaggerate, but they were using, they were calibrating using 100 parts per trillion, and that's getting pretty low down there. So we were very impressed with their sensitivity and performance.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, it's a cool machine, Larry.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds.
And the beautiful part of it is the plasma. What it does is it basically burns these things all at once. So it does the full spectrum of metals. It gets all the metals in one shot. And there's the old atomic absorption is with one metal at a time, each had required a calibration. This thing just blasts them all in and pop, you got the results. And it's a great machine because if somebody says, oh, what was the strontium number from three months ago? They can go back and get it, even though they might not normally report it. They might or they might not, depending on what you're looking for. But yeah, it's an incredible tool.
So is this is this like a desktop size machine? How big is it?
Yes, it is. Indeed, they probably, 10 to 15 years ago, they were all floor models, probably about the size of your washing machine, your clothes washer. And over ours is, even our current one is on the bench top, but yes, it is a bench top model. So it's pretty tidy these days.
Oh.
It won't fit Larry on that little Trump desk. The one he's been using, the little one. Won't fit on that. I guess he's going to have an even a littler one now. So,
we hope. We hope his signature.
It's going to happen.
I'm sure his signature will compensate for his shrinking desk. So,
well, it's going to be worth a lot less. That's for sure.
Let's hope.
Okay. So I need. Okay, public comment.
Mr. Roger Roberts.
Hi, Roger.
I don't have a comment on this, but I have a comment on the prior.
Okay, go ahead. That's all right. That's okay.
All right, if I'm just curious whether you've looked at, besides the payback, which is very attractive, as what the long-term life of the equipment is that would be used for standby power, and what its maintenance costs are, because you need to take those into account when you do your payback analysis.
Yeah, Roger, understand that you have to maintain the rentals too. Okay, so you don't really get any break from the rental company. And I think, and feel free, Lucy, to correct me, but 10,000 hours is not an unreasonable number to expect to get out of one of these units. Is Lucy still on?
She is, but I think she's having some audio issues. This is Paul, Director Russell. Yeah, I think you're right. The equipment that we have currently, the 7 that Lucy talked about, those were purchased in 2000, and those are functioning okay at the moment, though we have had to do some maintenance.
They have great life in general. One of the tricky things, Roger, is you have to change the oil every 100 hours, or you're supposed to anyway, which is a bit of a trick, needless to say.
Yeah,
so
and that is actually included in the rental cost.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of already in there, is my point.
Well, certainly regular oil changes extend the life of any kind of machinery.
Well, Roger, especially one like this, because it has 2 speeds, on and 100%. Basically, it's more almost like an airplane. You run an airplane engine at full speed, not like a car. Car runs, at 30% or something like that. Airplane engines and standby generators run at basically full out. So, the engine's either off or it's running full bore.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now I need a motion and a second for the one we're supposed to have been discussing, Roger.
I'd move it.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Paul and Lucy.
Thanks a lot. Hey, Chris.
Okay,
Chris.
Michael and Chris. Yes, thank you. Number 4 is up.
Yes,
Kent Lake aerator lines.
right. Jake Miller, Associate Engineer, will be leading the presentation on this item.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Great. Well, I'm Jake Miller, Associate Engineer in the Design section. I'm here to present the item for Kent Lake Aerator Vent Lines Replacement Project. During an inspection of the aerator vent lines in 2019, divers found that the vent lines were damaged from abrasion with the steel wire rope that was used for lifting the aerators. So this project will replace the 2 180 linear foot vent lines and 200 linear foot airline, as well as the aerator lifting rope. And the materials for this project have been selected to minimize wear on the vent lines. And the engineer's estimate for this project is $100,000. and the bids will open on January 21st. The
Mhm.
project is scheduled to last 275 days with a completion date of July 22nd of 2021. If all bid documents are acceptable, staff will make recommendation for contract award at a future board meeting. Any questions?
Yeah, I have some, Jake.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it make sense to consider not putting the lifting lines on and just sending a diver down to hook them on if they're causing that much damage? I mean, how often do you lift these aerators?
So they're not lifted very often. I imagine it would be more in case of emergency repairs or something like that, or something larger. The rope that we're installing will be HMPE rope. So it'll be lightweight and won't cause as much abrasion to the HDPE.
What's HMP?
HMPE is high molecular polyethylene.
Plastic. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
That makes sense.
Public, any comments from the board?
None for me.
Public comment?
I do not see any public comments on this item.
Okay, I need a motion in a second.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Thanks,
Thank
Jake.
you.
Number 5. Smith Saddle Tank Rehabilitation.
This item will be presented by Zach Talbot, Associate Engineer.
Hi,
Hi, good
Zach.
morning, everyone.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. I have a short presentation for everyone this morning. Can everyone see the slideshow okay?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Again, my name is Zach Talbot. I'm an associate engineer here at the district. I'm here to present on the Smith Saddle Tanks Rehabilitation Project. In this presentation, I will walk you through the tank's background, how they function, and their current condition, and the rehabilitation project itself. The Smith Saddle tanks were originally constructed in 1960 of welded steel. They functioned together as a system to provide a total of 10 million gallons of potable water storage. The tanks are in need of rehabilitation because the interior and exterior coatings have reached the end of their useful life and are no longer adequate to protect the tanks. The project will focus on rehabilitating the 2 5 million gallon welded steel tanks you see here on the slide. And now for a little bit of scale, the tanks are of identical design, each with a diameter of 150 feet.
Wow.
For scale, an NFL football field is 100 yards or 300 feet in length and 53 yards or 159 feet in width. When the Smith saddles are placed together, as you see here, they roughly span the entire field, both in width and length. Water storage tanks are traditionally designed to be significantly wider than their height for stability during a seismic event. Each of these tanks is 39 feet tall, which is roughly equivalent to a 3-story building. Also on the slide, you can see our newest pump station, our system, the Smith Saddle Conifer pump station, which represents our new design standard and provides redundancy in our system. So this slide shows the 33-inch North Marin line in blue, connecting San Geronimo treatment plant to the Smith Saddle tanks. From the Smith Saddle tanks, the North Marin line continues on through Sleepy Hollow, Terra Linda, San Rafael, Lucas Valley, and Los Ranchitos. The Smith Saddle tanks are some of the largest transmission storage tanks in our district system. Originally named the North Marin Balancing Reservoir, they are the main transmission storage tanks between San Geronimo treatment plant and the rest of the district's potable water distribution system. The Smith Saddles are rarely allowed to operate below 70% of their capacity, as more potable water cycles through these tanks than any other tanks in the district. So a little bit about their coating history. They've been in service, the tanks have been in service since 1961, and they're 61 years old, and their interior and exterior coatings have reached the end of their useful lives. extensive corrosion has formed throughout the roof structure of these tanks. The exterior of the tanks has been recoated only once in 1983 and are now 38 years old. And the interior coatings are original and are now nearly 60 years old. Previous inspection reports and video inspections have documented these interior conditions of the tanks, summarizing interior coating failures and severe corrosion on the roof structures of the tanks, rafters, entry points, and specifically above the water lines. Several photos from previous tank inspections can be seen here on the slide. I'd like to call your attention to the bottom right-hand picture. The tank's interior roof has severe corrosion and is losing material, which degrades the structural integrity of the tank. Based on previous inspections and the photos you see here, staff has determined the tanks require rehabilitation in order to continue to serve the district at their full capacity. And now I would like to talk to you about how we're going to get this done. The first phase of the project will be evaluating the tanks before we dive into the design and rehabilitation. A qualified professional engineering consulting firm will conduct a comprehensive seismic and structural evaluation of the Smith-Saddle tanks, including measuring material thicknesses of the exterior and interior coatings, as well as the steel thickness of the roof, the walls, and the floors. This evaluation will inform staff on which areas of the tanks need to be rehabilitated. The report will include a section that identifies additional sites improvement opportunities, including road improvements, tank safety and security improvements, as well as an evaluation for solar panel installation. The structural evaluation and site improvement recommendations will be finalized in a report that will support the basis of design for the rehabilitation. The evaluation report will recommend structural modifications, repairs, retrofits, and correct any deficiencies, and will also provide 3 design alternatives, each with a 100-year life cycle cost analysis. And now I'd like to walk you through the planned schedule to complete the project. Since the Smith-Saddle tanks are a critical asset, they must be rehabilitated one at a time throughout the low demand seasons of fall and winter. Tank rehabilitation during the high demand seasons of spring and summer is not feasible. In my previous slide, I shared the details of phase 1, which was kicked off in fall of 2020, when staff solicited qualified professional engineering consulting firms to perform the comprehensive evaluation of the Smith-Saddle tanks. The proposals are due on Monday, January 18th, and staff will evaluate the proposals and select the most qualified firm for this project. Phase 2 is design and is scheduled to begin this summer after staff has reviewed the final evaluation report and selected a design scope for rehabilitation. The district will reserve the option to continue working with the selected engineering firm to provide the services required to develop the plan specifications and construction estimates, as well as the required environmental documentation and permitting for the preferred tank rehabilitation design. And finally, phase 3 will dive into the construction, which is planned to begin in fall of this year with one of the 2 tanks, and will continue until spring of 2022. The rehabilitation of the second tank is scheduled for fall of 2022 and is estimated to finish in spring of 2023, which would mark the end of this project. The total estimated cost for the Smith-Saddle tanks rehabilitation project ranges from $6 million to $10 million and is dependent on the extent of the rehabilitation required for these tanks or their possible replacement. And so that concludes my presentation. I'd like you to join. I would like to thank you for joining me for this project. As I shared earlier, staff is expecting to receive proposals from qualified firms next week, and district staff will make recommendation for the selection of an engineering consulting firm at a future regularly scheduled board meeting. I'd like to open up to any questions.
Hi, Zach. I got several questions. I mean, these kind of numbers, 6 to 10 million, you're talking about the cost of new tanks.
So the 6 million this is total budget, including staff and consultant fees. The 6 million was developed as extensive rehabilitation. If, say, the full roof needed to be replaced and or the floors, that's kind of the bottom end of the estimate. And then the 10 was developed as a number for new tanks. And again, these are rough numbers. I'm not really going to know the extent of the corrosion damage until we actually get in there in a dry environment and see what needs to be cut out and replaced and rehabilitated.
So,
How much are we
so
at?
the range could be less. I mean,
It could,
less than 6. So probably that's not the full range of possibilities. It's just with the level of corrosion, we're anticipating the roof will likely need to be replaced.
Yeah, I mean, but at $1 a gallon, Ben, and I think you could do better than $1 a gallon on that size tank. You're talking about the 10 million is $1 a gallon. So I think a steel tank, I think you can probably get these down to the 60 or 70 cents a gallon. Now you got the old tank to deal with. But one thing that concerns me is the current tanks look to me to be in very rough shape, and they're only 60 years old or something like that. And Zach is talking about 100 years. So I think it's critical that we have if you intend to get 100 years life, let's get a plan that calls out the maintenance that will get us to 100-year life, because these tanks are suffering from a lack of maintenance. And that, in my opinion, shouldn't have happened. I'm not trying to blame anybody, but I think a more diligent recoding program we wouldn't be talking today about this project.
I think that's absolutely correct. And it really does dovetail with some of the discussion, right, we had as part of the 10-year plan to get back on a routine cycle of recoding so we don't find ourselves in this sort of position.
Yes. Yeah, I'm surprised. I guess it's because we didn't have the bolted steel tank problem. You probably remember East Bay Mud had to go through and tear all their bolted steel tanks down because of the PCB in the gasket material. So I guess we avoided that problem. And I would assume they're coal tar epoxy on the inside, or at least they started off as coal tar.
they're still coal tar.
Still coal tar, yeah. So that's a bit of an issue too. In the long run, should we be allowing coal tar to be touching the water today? I understand it's what's there. I got the picture, but in terms of, is it really a wise management decision? And I understand we're monitoring water quality and all that to make sure there's not an issue, but it's just the conceptual side of it doesn't seem to be a real good vision in my thinking.
And while it wasn't identified in the schedule that Zach shared, we will be bringing back to the board the results of the assessment and the recommendation, and we can have a discussion on the different options, certainly at that point.
Yeah, what kind of companies have been approached?
Primarily full design engineering firms, local AECOM, GHD, Kennedy Jenks, and then a couple of tanks specialty firms that only do.
Oh, good.
steel.
I'm glad to hear the latter. This is a little out of the bailiwick, I think, of most of those heavy duty civil firms. They can get it done, but I think that I'm glad you're looking at people that actually do tanks, because these are big tanks. 5 million gallon. That's no slouch. Do you know what the biggest steel tank in the United States is? Do you have any idea?
I do not.
I don't either. But I got a feeling these must be up there, because that's about as big as I've ever heard of a steel tank.
As far
Concrete
as
go much bigger, but not steel.
as far as the numbers, we're talking about dollar numbers. I didn't get too alarmed at that myself, because I saw in the report that it says we're going to consider optional tasks as well. So I'm getting the impression we're looking at a big picture, not only everything we should do, but everything we could do.
Correct. Yes, including site security improvements, telemetry, solar panels, things that can, take this site to where we'd like it to be.
Right.
There are options, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know that, the site security was redone last year. The fencing and all that. There's your friend in the back.
Sorry.
And it's been effective because those tanks were coated by generations of White Hill School students with graffiti. So I know since they've been working with us to recoat those tanks, but you know, since we put in that fencing, you know, there's been no new graffiti. So I just hope we you know, keep, you know, sort of a wide scope of what we're looking at, going from Larry Russell's sort of value engineering approach of coating the outside with Rust-Oleum to putting solar panels on the top, because that would be a great solar facility. I mean, there's nothing to block reception there. So yeah, it's a big project. And then the other thing, just, I didn't realize the gasket, there was a gasket issue with, you know, toxic substances, whether we will be testing.
Not on this tank, not on this tank, Larry. It's on the bolted seal, the other ones.
Okay, but this is using coal tar, right? As
coal tar coating on the inside, yes. Yes.
So that's approved by EPA or something? Is that?
It was at the time.
Correct. So, you know, we should also be taking a look at water quality. I mean,
absolutely.
You know, so that's just another thing to put on your checklist.
Looking at those tanks, I don't see a lot of hope that they're going to make the cut, but they're going to blast that interior off completely. So the coal tar will be removed, and a epoxy type coating likely will be used. By the way, I just looked it up. The largest steel tank in America is 34 million gallons.
Where is it?
It's in St. Louis. It's oh, excuse me, city of Austin, Texas. A St. Louis contractor got the job. 1.5 million to repaint it. 260 feet in diameter, 120 feet high.
Wow. Well,
bigger more than an acre.
They are Goliaths. I mean, they are very impressive looking structures. So,
as just a point of interest, some years ago, a local group of artists approached the board with the concept of making our tanks an art form and opening them up so people could go out, artists could go out there and totally decorate them. At the time, we considered that not a good idea and went for forest green as a better choice. So
yeah. Well, we can see. I mean, maybe we want to darken them up or something, but yeah, it's a very weird and austere little setting that they're into. So.
Yeah. Well, had that been selected, they would now be, you know, very colorful.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
That's an interesting idea, Jack. I kind of like it. We could, I guess, it'd be some safety issues, but we could have them paint the roofs. Okay, any public comment?
No comments. No comments.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Approval to the board.
Second.
Okay, thank you all. Okay, number 6, Coastal Conservancy grant for forestry restoration.
Yeah, good morning, board members. Sean Horn, Watershed Resources Manager. I'm going to take this item this morning. This has 2 recommendations. We're asking for the Operations Committee to review and refer to a regular scheduled bi-monthly Board of Directors meeting with the Operations Committee recommendation to approve amendment number 6 to the cooperative agreement between the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy and Marin Water, and also to recommend approval of disbursement of $70,000 from the Mount Tam Watershed Fund, which was donated by the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy as part of the grant from the California Coastal Conservancy. So on March 2nd of 2020, the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy received a grant in the amount of $725,000 for a forest health strategy to be developed in Marin. And that funding came through the Department of Natural Resources as a block grant, which came from the California Cap and Trade funding. So this is a really great opportunity for the land managers within Marin County to work collaboratively to develop a long-term forest health strategy. So this grant included $70,000 to the district to implement a demonstrational project, which we carried out under our Biodiversity Fires and Fuels Integrated Plan this last spring as part of a larger forestry restoration project that we implemented around Potrero Meadows that achieved 70 acres of forest restoration work. So included within the scope of this grant is also another $70,000 for the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy staff to assist the district with public outreach in regards to forest health work that's occurring on Marin Waters lands, as well as public outreach in relationship to the larger forest health strategy. So the district staff is working collaboratively with the Conservancy to develop that forest health strategy. We had a meeting yesterday, and it's also bringing in technical experts from universities throughout California, as well as other agencies to help inform kind of the direction we're going in regards to our forests here in Marin. And you can think about these forest types that we're thinking about being the larger ones that we see, being redwood forest, oak woodlands, Douglas fir, and bishop pines out in Point Reyes. So out of this strategy will really come a plan for how we can address some of the issues that we're seeing in our forests, some of the stressors associated with climate change, forest disease, and the such, and also with an eye on wildfire mitigation and reduction work. And this is really going to align and support future grant applications that we as a region may go after that from funding sources such as CAL FIRE or other climate resiliency bonds that may come out from the state. So I think this is a really progressive and important step for the district to be engaged in, and is also doing something that needs to be done throughout California in a proactive way, which is evaluate our forests and look for opportunities and ways that we can better manage them to restore not only the important ecosystem functions, but also protect them from changes that we may see in the future in relationship to climate change. So with that, I think I covered everything in this item. Just in summary, we have two requests that the Operations Committee review and approve amendment number 6 to the cooperative agreement, and also the disbursement of that $70,000 from the Mount Tam Watershed Fund to reimburse the district for the expenses we've incurred to carry out that forestry restoration work. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
I have a question. Sean, can you refresh my memory? The Mount Tamalpais Watershed Fund, isn't that what we have in the Marin Community Foundation? I mean, it is the district's fund, so $70,000 is coming from us.
Well, the attached as attachment 1 to the staff report is the letter of contribution that the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy gave to it. So the Conservancy actually moved the money into the Mount Tam Fund as a way to give it to the district. And then it's coming back to the district through reimbursement.
Okay. I would like at some future point where we get some update on that fund, and I haven't heard about it in a long time now, and just where we stand with it, how much money is there, what we're doing, what the plan is, and so forth. When convenient. That's certainly not urgent, but
yeah, we can do that. And I believe the current balance of that fund is about $260,000.
Okay. And the other question I had is a demonstration forest. What it sounds like to me is what we're really creating is a study model to look at. A demonstration sounds like we're going to open it up and we'll have a lot of people checking it out.
Yeah, it was proposed as a demonstrational project to kind of demonstrate the fact that if we come up with a forest health strategy, we actually have a way to implement the treatments that we're identifying in that strategy. And so the district carried out some of those treatments that we've outlined in our biodiversity, fires, and fuels plan, which are integrated into this forest strategy.
Okay.
Okay, no dog votes. No dog votes.
That's coming from my house. So Sean, do we? I've got one here that's perfectly quiet too. So, do we have 2 demonstration sites? There's one up on the ridge, and then there's one by Kent Lake, right? Is that what we're talking
I mean,
about?
that's an astute observation. So if you recall, when we started working on this issue of sudden oak death and what do we do on our forest lands, we worked with Cal Poly and UC Davis to do some of what were our original demonstrational projects for kind of providing how we would move forward with treatments within sudden oak death. And those are up on Bolinas Ridge, as well as by Peters Dam. And there's 4 of those sites. And those are really kind of our research plots, if you will, where we have that ongoing forestry monitoring work. I think we should think about, I think the terminology is confusing, so apologies for that. But I think we should think about this new work as kind of us scaling up our forestry restoration work under our biodiversity fires and fuels plan. And this strategy is going to be something that really helps us even grow that more.
Right, right. So these are model plots really is what we're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, the ridge plots, it's pretty amazing up there. I mean, it's just, you know, it really does look like it's sort of revitalizing, you know, the redwood groves up there. So worth checking out for anybody in the neighborhood. So and I'm just wondering, and it may not even be material. Why not just make the donation direct to the district?
Yeah, good question. And so we got preliminary approval from the Coastal Conservancy to have this money just moved into the Mount Tam Fund as a contribution. And that's a model and format that the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy has used with their other partners in the past and used with their other partners with funds from the Coastal Conservancy. However, after that donation was made and the reimbursement was asked to the Coastal Conservancy, their legal counsel advised them that they wanted some sort of written agreement to show the transfer of those funds and how it was moving. And so that's why we're doing this kind of after the fact, if you will, to demonstrate the commitment in the amendment between the different groups, us and the Conservancy, and then also that transfer of funds.
Yeah, kind of a belt and suspenders approach. Yeah, okay. Congrats. So yeah, that's good.
Okay, so if I understood you correctly, Sean, you want us to vote on this, correct?
I think these are both just referrals. Is that right? Okay. I think that's just a referral.
It's referral?
Correct.
Okay.
So do you want
public, well, almost public comment?
Any raised hand, you were good.
Public comment?
None.
None, okay. Yes, Larry.
I'd move approval or refer it.
Second.
Okay. Thank you all. Any other comments? Okay. We're done. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay.
Take care. See ya.
Have a great day, folks.
Nice weekend, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good weekend.
Bye.